Dr. Henry Ealy, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Maria. It's so good to be back.
It's great to have you. Well, today we're doing something a little bit different, and that is digging into a very, very important question that you asked on X: why Secretary Kennedy hasn't pulled the damn shots, but has fully funded Arcturus 2304 self-amplifying mRNA and moved 500 million to universal and edible vaccine projects. Everything traces back to one man and the non-profit running it all. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, we need to talk right now.
Absolutely. We all heard about the end of the mRNA, right? That they were going to now defund everything. And, didn't that feel a little too easy for you?
Well, but to be honest, I saw that and I thought, yeah, but there's other projects that are being funded. There's the universal vaccine, there's this, there's that, there's the fast tracking of saRNA. There's so many other things happening in the background. So I thought, well, what is it about mRNA that they don't really need that technology anymore? What's worse that's coming?
Now that's the good question right there, right? What else is coming? Why would you so flippantly just say, yeah, we're done with this. We're not gonna do this anymore. And we're going to defund. This is the word they use. We're going to defund $500 million, right? Okay, so defunding means that we should be able to go and see exactly which clinical trials now no longer have funding because they're pulled and are shut down on clinicaltrials.gov. I couldn't see any of that. I still haven't been able to find which specific projects, which specific clinical trials have been shut down. One of the things that was really disturbing, though, was I started going through AP News and Fox and New York Times, and I started reading the same article, and it had a different author apparently for each one, but the articles were exactly the same. So that starts telling us Project Mockingbird. That starts telling us that they are just parroting out the same, mocking the same stuff out there, and there's a problem. So I went back to the Health and Human Services Department to say, let me read the actual press release on this.
Sure.
You go and read the press release, and this is where it starts giving us some insight that we can go through in the thread, because I became aware of some new names that I had never been aware of before in terms of companies, or at least in terms of ventures, let's say. The first one was the BARDA Ventures. Now, we've all heard of BARDA, which is this weird branch of our weird public agency under the Health and Human Services Secretary, under the HHS, but that has ties to the Department of Defense. So BARDA is this really, really strange thing. We've seen BARDA for years, but I didn't understand how it all works. And I think that's what we want to share in this thread and in this conversation today, is how it all works. Who's really pulling the strings? Who's the puppet master? Well, not surprisingly, the puppet master is Bill Gates. And it became super obvious, and as soon as you get into it, because there was another name in that press release, another nonprofit organization. And this is one of Bill Gates' hallmarks, all right? The nonprofit organization's name is Global Health Investment Corp, GHIC. And you start going through there, and that's on the About page. If you scroll down a little bit, you start seeing some interesting things. The first interesting thing you see is right there: inspired by innovation. Remember, I've been saying that word. They keep using the same word over and over again.
Yes.
Innovation, innovation, innovation. Well, the GHIC, the Global Health Investment Corporation, is a nonprofit organization, a nonprofit organization that was funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Okay, now that should be pretty weird to begin with. One nonprofit organization is somehow funding another nonprofit organization. If that doesn't make you go, there's something really wrong here, it should. All right, because nonprofit organizations, I have one. The nonprofit organizations should be standalones. That's the original intention of being a charitable organization, is that you stand alone and that you don't have investments. But if you go and look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation tax returns that you can see on their website, if you go and look at them, they have hundreds and hundreds of pages with literally like 50, 60 line items each of how many companies they actually own, both nonprofits and for-profit companies. Now, that's a little strange to you. I don't know. Is that strange? Does that sound strange to you, Maria?
Absolutely. And every
I,
time there's something shady going on, that's the kind of structure that we see.
right? So now let's talk about that structure before we get into this one. We have to think back to early 2000 and what were a lot of the billionaire class, taking heat for? Not paying their fair share of taxes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of offshore accounts. There was a lot of hiding their money in the Cayman Islands, right? There's a lot of shady stuff they were doing because they didn't want to they didn't want to pay their fair share into the kitty of our entire country. They didn't want to do that. How do they save all their money and be able to use our money as well for their ventures? So Bill Gates has this brilliant idea to use charitable organizations to be able to execute this strategy. And the meeting first happens in New York. I think it was first published. I think it was first published by The Guardian in 2009, that they formed something called the Good Club. Now, Maria, have you heard of the Good Club?
The Good Club. I have not.
Most people haven't, right? But this is where you get all of these billionaires together, and what Bill Gates is pitching is how to save them from taxes. This is the first thing. How are they going to save each other from taxes? They're going to create charitable organizations, nonprofits, and they're going to move all of their money over there so that any income that comes in through the nonprofit is now not taxed. Okay. This is what the Good Club did. Now, who are the members of the Good Club, the initial members of the Good Club? We have Oprah Winfrey. We have Warren Buffett. We have David Rockefeller. These are the names that are published. And of course, there's a few others in there as well. Ted Turner is another name that gets published into this initial meeting. God only knows how many actual members there are now and who they are of this Good Club. But the whole idea was to use philanthropy as an illusion, to use a nonprofit organization as a tax haven for their businesses. What you're
And
talking
take a
about is
commission.
that's money laundering. Yeah, that's this is ridiculous, right? Like that is
Wow.
obvious money laundering going on. There's obviously some, even of course, which of all the 50 states in the country, which state is Bill Gates's state? It's Washington, right? Washington, Portland, California. He pretty much is so embedded, it's ridiculous. So when you're dealing with this man, you have to look for his fingerprints. And his fingerprints are always the same. They always are in this nonprofit, appear to be a philanthropist, do things for the public good nonsense, right? This is all this tax evasion lie that he's created, and all of his buddies have jumped in and are supportive of as well. Because in this case, what it does is it gives him the ability to manipulate our government agencies by simply manipulating what they are invested in. Right. And now, if you want to move an investment from one place to another, that changes the dynamics dramatically, but now you get a say in it. So it was very shocking reading the HHS press release that was credited to Secretary Kennedy, because it openly revealed the Global Health Investment Corporation. I'd never heard of that. I don't think many people had. It opened up that there was a connection between that nonprofit somehow. This is a nonprofit organization. This is basically an NGO, a non-governmental organization, having influence over a public agency's investment portfolio, BARDA Ventures. How does a public agency have an investment portfolio? And that in influencing the investment portfolio, you then influence the organization, and that's the BARDA. And that BARDA, being under the HHS, is now telling Secretary Kennedy what to do, and he's co-signing on it. And the proof of that is that they said they're doing away with the mRNA platforms, but there's still plenty. There was over 500. When I checked in January, there were over 500 clinical trials going on mRNA alone, whether it's vaccine or not, doesn't matter. And Secretary Kennedy on April 10th, he fast-tracked the Arcturus 2304 self-amplifying mRNA shot for H5N1 bird flu. He on April, this blows my mind, Maria. this guy, this anti-vax guy, he wrote the book on Fauci, included chapters on Gates. He's exposing all this stuff. He's our guy that's now in the government. He's there. He's our knight in shining armor. He's riding in on a white horse. Boy, he's going to save the damsel in distress. We got this great situation, right? The Kennedys have come home. And what do we get instead? We get a guy who is basically at the end of a string being played, and being played by one of the most evil people in the entire world, if not the most evil person in the entire world, Bill Gates. Because it's not an accident that 2009 you get the Good Club, 2012 you get the Global Health Investment Corporation. Around the same time, I haven't been able to confirm this, but around the same time you get no, I did confirm this. In 2020 or 2019, you get BARTA Ventures somehow. And now you have the network established of how somebody who has not been elected, should have no say in how our government conducts itself, now has full control of the largest budget in our country's portfolio. People need to realize that the Health and Human Services Secretary has the largest budget by far of any of the major budgets in our entire national portfolio. And now that budget is completely owned by Bill Gates.
Well, that is absolutely terrifying. I can't say I'm completely surprised.
Nope.
What I still see a lot of people saying is, no, this isn't possible. You must be reading this wrong. Even when you give them receipts and screenshots and links and everything, there's this level of cognitive dissonance. And what I find really interesting, Dr. H, is that the media like Buffett, for example, attacking RFK and saying, if you want to see vaccine, no one getting vaccines anymore, or you just do what RFK Jr. is doing. It's like, guy, there really is not a threat to the vaccine industry. Like if we're being honest, there's really no threat. There's actually an expansion and more dangerous tech coming down the pipeline. And so I really think that the act of the mainstream media is to pretend to attack the current establishment, right? That's what's happening here.
You nailed it. It's a total theater that's going on with that. And you see it. The easy signs for people to be able to see, like, is this theater or is this real? Like this. That's the thing that we have to teach everybody that would love for Maha to actually be something that's legitimate. It's not. It's garbage. Okay. If you want to understand what's going on and you want to know whether something is real or not, you look at the legal actions. If there is a legal action being taken against the Health and Human Services Secretary and the department in general, that means something went down that was not planned and that was not agreed to. And that will tell us that he's actually operating independent of his puppet master and that we are now in business. But until we see something like that, this is all Bill Gates, dealing with the marionette. He's just going ahead and saying, I need you to move over here. I need you to do this. I need you to move this 500 million over here. I need you to say it and couch it as a win for your rabble rousers, your anti-vaxxers. I need you to couch it as a win so we can get them to shut up so they can go back to sleep during the summer. Go to the 4th of July cookouts, go on their trips and not pay attention to what we're actually doing. Funding aerosolized vaccines, funding edible vaccines, and of course, funding a universal vaccine platform. Because if any of that stuff gets out, then we wake back up again. And now it makes it harder for them, because what that tells us is they don't have that full structure in place yet. They're still building the structure. That's why that's our opportunity to be a wrecking ball.
100%. And I really just encourage everyone, if you're watching this right now and you didn't see our expose on this latest universal vaccine, please go and watch it. And you will see that the BPL platform already, that is a known carcinogen, that's even on the NIH's website. So to proudly announce this with an admission on your own website that it's a known carcinogen is just, we're at peak idiocracy here right now. It's basically as stupid as it was in the COVID era, safe and effective. Like, you've got to be kidding me. But anyway, the gaslighting drives me insane, Dr. H. It really does. But anyway.
But hey, let's go do 100 push-ups and 150 pull-ups in 10 minutes. and call ourselves healthy.
but but
This
but
is
the but the
nuts.
but the the other thing that I wanted to just mention as well is that we dig into John Fleetwood, who's an incredible researcher, has been
Mhm,
tracking all of
mhm,
this gain of function that's going on. And when they said that they're ending gain of function, we did a report and said, actually, no, they're expanding it. What do you mean they're
expanding.
ending it? They're expanding
Yep.
it. And so right now, simultaneously, the BPL universal vaccine they're talking about has 4 different bird flu strains. They've also expanded gain of function into bird flu. So something really sinister is going on here. All the hallmarks are there, and we really have to learn from the COVID era. But this part is something that we didn't cover in there, which is the expansion of edible vaccines. Talk to us about that.
Mhm. So one of the big things in their investment portfolio um, is how to get the genome modified to be able to deliver what they would call a vaccine. It's not a vaccine; it's a bioweapon. It's a genetically modifying code sequence that they want to put into the foods. And of course, we've heard about this and little mentions of it, especially with lettuce and a few other things. There was a state, I want to say it was Georgia, and I want to say it was about 2 weeks ago, Maria Z. I wish I was a little bit more precise with that, but where the designation of any edible vaccine as a pharmaceutical was agreed to and approved by the state legislature, and they moved that up to the governor's desk for signature. I never heard whether the governor actually signed that into law because it was going to put a limitation on that, meaning that if you produced an edible vaccine, it would have to be classified as a pharmaceutical and go through the 7 to 10 year trial process to gain FDA approval, or at least approval for being able to be sold as a product within that state, right? So that's where the states' rights were kind of coming back in. And that's what a lot of states are going to have to do. If you want edible vaccines out of your state, you're going to have to get them out because they're coming.
Yes.
And that's this self-amplifying platform is coming. This universal absurdity, it's all coming. The aerosolized they're all coming right now, and they're all coming because we get the world that we pay for. Specifically, we get the world that Bill Gates is allowed to. I mean, it's theft, Maria. I don't know another way to say it. Our taxpayer dollars are getting stolen, misappropriated, whatever word you want to use to describe it. He has figured out a way to get his tentacles into the largest budget in the world. Bill Gates has access to a $4 trillion annual budget on top of all the other money with him and his good club cronies they have access to. You're talking about a death blow, to health, to freedom, to everything that we hold dear, because we have allowed one criminal to use philanthropy, the illusion of philanthropy and charitableness and public health as a disguise for what is absolutely horrifyingly evil. And until we're ready to stop that as a people, it's going to continue. So I'm with you, Maria. I'm ready to stop that. I was ready to stop that 25 years ago. So that's what we do, right? But what I'm going to tell you, everybody, if you think that it's okay for a public agency to have an investment portfolio, you don't want a government. You want a company running your life.
Right.
That's
And
what it
that's
is.
it's essentially what's been happening for a very long time, to be honest with you. And the people were thinking that there may be change coming with these figures that we've kind of watched for years battling against the system, and essentially it's all just plodding along exactly how it's supposed to, according to
Mhm.
the plans of those that seek to control us. I mean, just the other day we were reporting on this new implantable self-assembling
Right.
nanotechnology that Bill Gates is doing, as if that's like brand new and it never happened before. And so it's really astounding to me, Dr. H. What we really have to do is just face the facts. So something that you said is that we have to basically we've been allowing everything that's happening is because we've allowed it. So we believed that certain people were going to be good for us, we're going to do the right things for us. We rallied against for those people, and now what we're witnessing is just many actions that are just not in line with what we were promised.
Now the militarization of medicine becomes, this is where it begins, really. They go on to say, and I quote again, the state parties to this convention undertake to facilitate and have the right to participate in the fullest possible exchange of equipment, materials, and scientific and technological information for the use of bacteriological, and then they put in parentheses, biological agents and toxins for, and this is the big part, peaceful purposes. So 183 nations signed this BS document agreeing to stop all chemical warfare, all bioweapons. It all gets stopped unless it's for a peaceful purpose. And what is more peaceful than public health? And that's where the birth of the movement from bioweapons as a war tool, an explicit war tool. And don't think for a second that they don't have explicit bioweapons as war tools still, but into the public sphere and the overtaking of medicine. Medicine, if we really understand what Hippocrates is teaching, is first do no harm. So when does it become an acceptable number of casualties? That's a war mentality. That's a military mentality, acceptable casualties. Well, that starts in 1972 with this document, and every country agreeing to keep on doing all of their bioweapon development so long as their bioweapons are for quote unquote peaceful purposes.
Well, I'm so glad they have our best interests at heart.
Always, right? Always. These eugenicists are just so lovable.
Dr. H, I'm really glad that you're digging into this, and I'm really glad that, I'm encouraged when I talk to people like you, because I watch this stuff and I think, my gosh, that people are being lied to, and the level of lies, and then the incorporation of AI and bots, and all these accounts that just cheer things on, and they're just inorganic. It really is. We're living in a level of psychological warfare that's probably worse than the COVID era, I would say. And it's going to continue to get worse, in my opinion. And this is why it's very important for people to be listening to voices that not only do a lot of research and look, peek behind the curtain, but also encourage people to do their own research, which I know that you do.